of the elves. No railings, afraid of heights. Just a side note, we need this staff to go to war. The Wailing Pass. It's a fetch quest. There is a gap, an opening. Bandits keep Knock as one of his second levels. Go on a little further and the Wailing grows zombies. Sure enough, swinging wild at his zombie down. It's off of the cliff to come get them. This battle goes quicker. Black marble, cramped area. Oh dear. Oh dear. Werewolves. At least that's their assumption. Werewolves. So they begin to get ready, like, okay, we got to get ready. It's got to be spells because, you know, and we got magic weapons. Everyone's got magic. Okay, full fire. You've got the bow. You've got to use the bow. Can't switch to the sword, right? They're getting ready for a fight with lycanthropes. But that's not what's after them. Ahead on the path, a large boulder.
I like that boulder.
A large boulder mostly blocks the pass. It's almost entirely blocked off. And as they approach it, around it comes the huge form of an ice wolf. The ice wolf is found in the creature catalog. I don't know what module it was introduced in. The creature catalog kind of gathers all of the extra monsters. You know, when a module introduces a special monster just for that module, you know, it collects all of those up. And monsters from other sources here, there, and other places. The only monsters it doesn't have are the ones that are in the regular, you know, DM's guides. Anyway, the Ice Wolf. What this thing is, it's a big honking thing. 4 hit dice for they have a range you can pick. 4 hit dice for this particular wolf. And they do damage in biting, but they also have a breath weapon like a dragon. Cool. Cool. So they've got a cold breath weapon. And that does 1d4 plus 1 per hit dice. So it's 4 hit dice plus 1, so it's for 4d4. Anyway, the thing comes around the boulder. Its baleful eyes connect with them, and a smiling snarl crawls across its face as it begins to slowly approach. The group prepares to fire their lightning bolts, because here it is, perfect. Big target, 1 target, perfect, when in the middle of the group, boom! Lands another ice wolf. It had been prowling on the top and jumped down into their midst, cutting the party in two and eliminating the possibility of killing it with lightning bolt, because if they turn around, both of the elves were in front, if they turn around and fire lightning bolt at this one, it's going to go past this one and hit their friends. And remember, the pass has narrowed down. There's not enough room to get out of the way, right? They're right there. So the fight's on. The wolves win initiative, and the wolf that landed takes a big old bite out of Touchberry. Ouch! It is a 1d10 in damage, and I think he rolls like an 8. You know, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And then the other wolf begins charging. It has some distance to make up, however, so it doesn't get there in time. It is just about 10 feet away. Fleetwood unleashes a lightning bolt. Tears through the thing, right? Does it make it save? Yes, it makes its save. It's still alive. It's still alive and coming, but Bob Johnny's got one as well. Lightning bolt. 2 lightning bolts is going to be too much for this 4-hit dice creature. It misses this saving throw, but it didn't really matter that much. It's gone. Meanwhile, Fowfire is backing up with her bow because she had the bow out for a lycanthrope, right? She was all set for that. And they don't know that these aren't lycanthropes yet. She backs up to take a shot. I think she misses. Touchberry, however, swings and hits. He does a decent amount of damage. Not huge, but a decent amount. The wolf, on its turn, spins on the elves and breathes. Now, they have to make a saving throw. One makes, one misses, and I can't remember who makes misses. I think Bob Johnny makes. Fleetwood misses his saving throw. And the wolf breathes out this cone of cold, and that's when they realize, oh, it's not a lycanthrope, this is something else. Okay, and so Fleetwood takes like 12 points of damage. Bob Johnny makes the save, so he takes 6. It's not huge, but they're like, okay, this is something else, this is something different, right? They can't do a lightning bolt though, because again, Touchberry and Foe Fire are on the other side, and the lightning bolt will keep going. It's not gonna stop, right? So they can't do that. Bob Johnny fires magic missile. Fleetwood just goes in for the attack, and obviously the magic missiles all hit. He doesn't roll very well for the damage. Fleetwood, I think, misses on his. Touchberry again hits from behind. This time Foe Fire connects. This thing has taken some major hits. It's still alive. It swings and it attacks Touchberry with a bite and does a decent amount of damage again to the little halfling. He's starting to hurt. He's getting down, but eventually they finish it off. It doesn't. I mean, they're now ganging up on it, right? And they finish the thing off. Yikes! They listen. Are there any more of them? Now they attack as packs. Wolves like to stay together, so this is probably it. Just this pair out hunting. I say, as the creatures fall dead, they slowly turn a perfect white. They're already a whitish, bluish color, but they turn a perfect white and disintegrate into piles of snow. Just a touch I thought I'd add because it sounded cool. The party presses on, and as night begins to fall, they see a thin sliver of moon reflected off of a long lake. They've found it. Tomorrow we'll go down. During the night, I roll for a random encounter. Oh yeah, there's a random encounter, all right. I wonder what kind of thing they're going to meet here in the animal. The party is camped at the end of the pass, which widens out to form a valley, and there is a tumble down of rock going ahead of them down toward the lake. The lake is ringed with trees, but where they are, it's just a tumble of large rocks and boulders, etc., that have fallen off the mountain and they spilled down to the lake. They're camping at the top of this. During the night, during Fleetwood's watch, there's a clopping and clattering further down the hill. Okay, wake everyone up, wake everyone up. And they wait, tense. Finally, into the elves' range of infravision emerges a creature. What kind of creature is it? Is it another wolf? No. Is it humanoid? No. It's a mule. And it comes picking its way up the stones. It had seen their fire and knew that there were humans or some intelligent something here and came looking for food. This is someone's mule in the mountains, and it's been wandering and lost. That's generally why I put mules in mountains. They're someone's pack animal that's gotten lost or something. Anyway, so it comes looking for them and walks into their camp. This is based on a reaction roll for the creature, and it was all positive. It was all yes. So I decided it would be tame and looking for food. So walks up to them. Just, hi, can I hang out with you now? So now they've got a mule on their hands. Okay. Rest of the night passes uneventfully. In the morning, they wake up and they can see the details as I've described. It was a little hazy because they arrived there at night. They can see the details that I described, the long, thin lake with the trees all around it, except the area they are on, and the boulders pouring down. And they go down those boulders. They pick their way down to the lake, leading the mule, of course. When they come to the lake, they discover that among the boulders that tumbled down, there is hidden almost a pier of rock that juts out into the lake. It's obscured by the presence of all the other boulders around it, but its surface is largely clear as it extends out into the lake. Now, it begins to sink as it goes, like the ground, the lake bed is giving way and it's sinking, it's settling. And so the end of it is covered in an inch or two of water, but it goes out a slab of polished black marble with gold seams running through it. Where have we seen that before? Carved into this marble, carved into it are swirling designs, in the center of which is a Vesica Pisca, and in the Vesica Pisca, a carving of the Staff of Power, a sun as its head, and around the Vesica Pisca is carved, call upon the Staff of Power. when elven kind is in its darkest hour. They spend some time musing over this and wondering if an attack on the humans is really the darkest hour for the elves. Have you heard the story of the dungeon that has the word overthinking written on the wall? Bill Sylvie, the dungeon delver, tells about this. Overthinking is written on the wall, and he had a party stand there and look at it for like an hour, trying to figure out what it meant. I just needed to rhyme something. Okay, anyway. So they look at this and they're trying to figure out what to do. Now, remember I said earlier that a DM might like to reward players for choosing non-combat spells, for choosing the more, utility spells sometimes? Well, I had not intended this to be a thing, but Bob Johnny decides, looking at this strange thing, this carving of the staff, etc., decides to cast Knock on it. Okay, great. You cast Knock. Deep inside the stone, you hear a clank, a shift, a thunk, and then nothing. So, okay, they wouldn't have been able to open it if he hadn't cast that spell. I decide I'm going to give him that as a sort of, it's a bit of a pat on the head for choosing a utility spell over another combat spell, right? And I also want to point out, they had web, but did not use it during their fight with the zombies. Sometimes they just forget what they have. Anyway, they go, okay, now what? Well, I guess call on the Staff of Power. Hello, Staff of Power! And they're kind of get silly at this point. And then they bring back all of the, Princess of the Puddle, are you there? All this kind of stuff. Nothing's happening. Finally, Bob Johnny decides he's going to look at the Staff of Power. Maybe you pull that out. Maybe you magically reach into the stone and pull it out. Maybe that's what it is. And he examines it, and I roll a secret doors check for him. And I say, you don't see any way to pull the staff up, but what you do see is where the sun is, the head of the staff, is a perfect circle, a line going around it. It is clearly a separate piece of stone from the rest. Oh! I push on it. Pushing does nothing. I pull on it. It's hard to pull on. It's only carved about that deep. It's a real shallow carving, and so there's not really anything to grab onto. Well, I'll stick my dagger in there to try to pry it up. Okay, nothing happens. It doesn't move. Pulling does nothing, and pushing does nothing. What are we going to do? Now, again, this staff is carved in. And so there, and I draw it out on a piece of paper. I'm not a very good artist, but I draw it out on a piece of paper. There's a disc, and the 8 rays of the sun that come out are carved. They're indentations. They stick in just a little bit, right? Not a lot, but a little bit. And it's a perfect circle. Pushing does nothing. Pulling does nothing. And they keep faffing around with this. Push it, push it. Maybe we should push the rest of the rock down and let it... No. And finally I realize, again, Faux Fire is not saying anything. She lets them solve the puzzles. She lets them do the sort of, figuring out stuff, largely. And finally I say, I think this may be a generational problem. Now, if you are 30 years and up, you might have detected that if pushing does nothing and there's no way to pull, and it's a perfect circle, that there's something else you could do here, because we grew up with dial telephones. And you might have to be 40 and up to have grown up with dial telephones. But anyway, we grew up with dialing telephones. You have to turn it, right? You have to turn the thing. But they've never seen a dial telephone except on Sesame Street, okay? So they've never dialed a phone. They have only dialed a phone. They've never dialed on a dial. So this is one of those places where generational disconnect can seep into the puzzles you put into your D&D game, because they have no idea. They've never dialed a phone in their life. And when I say that, though, then Touchberry says, oh, it's like a phone. You have to dial it. So he knows, culturally, he's aware that the thing exists. But never having done it, he doesn't go to it right away. So he says that, and so one of the elves, because they figure the elves have to do this, one of the elves, using the indentations of the rays of the sun, turns it. And once it turns a full circle, I say there's a click and a thunk, and suddenly the whole stone that you're on shifts and lifts. It begins to float on the water. This is a magical floating, maybe? Maybe the underside is all pumice, I don't know. But it begins to float and drifts with direction, with intent, out into the lake. Okay, guess we're on a ride. They get halfway into the lake, and the thing stops and sort of does that partial turning that things do when they're just floating, right? And as they stand there, there's a disturbance in the water and a voice. Who calls upon the Lady of the Lake? It has to be one of the elves. Which one of us actually talked to the king and said, we need your help? Who's the actual one who said it? Well, it was Fleetwood. He has the highest charisma. He's also the oldest of the boys playing, so of course he does most of the talking for the group. All right. So Fleetwood says, Lady of the Lake, we require the Staff of Power. And then out of the roiling water emerges the head of the staff, gleaming and golden, followed by the black shaft of the staff, and ultimately a hand holding it. It tips toward the party. Fleetwood goes to get it. Now remember, the raft has drifted a little bit, so it's quite a reach, and he barely snags it and stumbles back onto the raft. The hand withdraws back into the water as a voice echoes, Use it wisely, use it well. Return the staff when the battle is over. The water is calm, and the stone platform begins to drift back toward shore. It eventually slides into place, and they hear a thunk, shunk, and the entire platform drops again to its position. Right. We've got it. Now all we have to do is go back through all those zombies. Ugh.